it should be a pretty safe bet to say that Kyria has lost to Lucy. I mean, Lucy had not only a new form, but it was even given the whole, with Lucy's current level of magic. I don't think her current level of magic, I think at her current level, plus the amount of magic she still had at her disposal, I assume Lucy at full power would be able to maintain the form way longer than 16 seconds. But outside of that, she also has got like a super big brain combo spell, like from a previous arc that obviously Mishima views as canon. So though it was already one of the things that was like the movie, the whole first arc, the Starry Sky arc, has been for sure canon. But like the first movie and the second movie was canon, and then kind of like for sure kind of extra canonized for like kind of like 100% hard stamped it once we got 5th gen, because obviously 4th gen had to exist. We even shown our Quantum Knights, so we even got a panel reference, and then later we saw Eclair, which in Eclair moment, like it would only make sense in context of the story if Phoenix Priestess was canon, for that to make sense, and all of the arcs line up as well canonically. And we were in a similar state to the Eclipse Spirit arc. It was written by Mishima. It was made to fit into the story. He made sure for parts like that in the story that if he wanted to do a filler part or something he wanted to put in there, then he could insert a story arc in there that would actually be beneficial to the story itself and not just be 20 30 episodes of events that have absolutely no impact, because both of the arcs had they boosted the arcs that followed, that being the Grand Magic Games and Tartaros. But back to the on topic right now is we have the next chapter being really, I think logically, Misaki versus Urza. And there's still like the potential. I don't want to go too crazy on. I'll talk about a little bit of Madmol and Scoleon showing up. But first, obviously, I'll go into that. But I want to obviously say like the most basic reason I think that it makes sense that Misaki and Urza is up next is we just had Lucy and Kyria's fight, and again, I will be so surprised if Kyria can get up. Kyria looks way worse than when she took Roaring Thunder from Laxus. So if an attack had more power than something that obviously Laxus was putting out that beat Kyria, like Kyria was still conscious for a little bit but passed out. I imagine her willingness to that the fact that she lost and just kind of like probably willingly passed out versus like being KO'd like this with Godfried. It's very clear that Godfried is a stronger spell, and I feel like that even in like there's nobody that can like look and be caught up at this series and really think that like it would make sense for like Lucy's strongest spell. And I'm gonna do a video on Godfried versus Ornamentra, because I want to do a whole kind of conversation around that as like how I think they work right now in Lucy's moveset. And I know there's like been conversation about it because I think it's something kind of really cool, because I didn't expect Lucy to get this spell, and then now it's like, well, which is Lucy's new trump card? Is it still Ornamentra or is it Godfried? And I know there's probably gonna be some people commenting down below, but I want to wait to see any comments for it when I do the video, because I know some people are gonna have their own takes, but I want to put up my take and why I think my take is kind of where I'm standing. So we'll get to that at a different point. But with that fight, again, I assume it's got to be over. I doubt it's gonna keep going. The only active fight is Misaki and Urza, and again, it's not really a fight right now, but I mean, like they're literally directly across from each other, and Urza's pissed off, and Misaki is clearly ready to mess with her. So I feel like it's just very clear that Urza and Misaki is going to be the next focus, because there's also a fact that you want to build on hype. And right now, what are the fights that are not going on out of like the ones that we know? Laxus versus Kirin. We know that they're separated. Laxus just got cut, so Laxus has to get healed probably by Wendy before we end up seeing Laxus and Kirin happen again. Also, Laxus has to try and figure out some way to catch up to Kirin. Like maybe he'll figure out something to do this with his Red Lightning Dragon mode. Maybe he'll start to kind of work towards trying to get Dragon Force, like actually good Dragon Force, and not the shitty 2nd gen Dragon Force. I guess like 2nd and 3rd, just that Lacrima store-bought brand, like off-brand Dragon Force that they got. But outside of that, when you look at what else is going on, obviously like Natsu and Suzaku are going up to try and like meet up with to try and stop Ignia from hurting any of their allies. And I feel like with most of them, they really don't have to worry too much about Ignia like killing them, because like Ignia, like from their perspective, like obviously Ignia is like a super threat, but I feel like if you really looked at it, you would see that like if Ignia really wanted to, he could have just incinerated everybody there. Like if he just wanted to, he could have showed up, nuked the whole area, and only people at that level, at that Dark Dragon Slayer Knight level, Selene, and would have been alive. Like Natsu and Suzaku, sure, like any of the characters I mentioned, but like there's like Lucy. Well, no, Lucy has her one save, so like if he did it before the Kiria fight, Lucy would have had an auto save. But it's like everybody else pretty much would have been dead. Maybe Gray could have done some crazy ice devil thing, but I feel like everybody else is pretty much screwed. So I don't think anybody else has any way of surviving that. Lucy has a kind of one a day get out of jail free card. But regardless of which, like that's a big fight coming up, is Selene versus Ignia. I assume they're gonna, like, we don't know if it's gonna be like a long drawn out battle, like a couple chapters, or if it's just gonna be like a chapter kind of stuff between them. I'm hoping we get like a chapter of them in their human forms and then a chapter of them in their dragon forms, and it's just like really cool feats. Like doesn't have to be power level kind of crazy. I just want it to be kind of like really interesting to see how they fight. Like even if it's like not like as absurd as it should be for how crazy they are, just like seeing like obviously Ignia, like he doesn't attack and you see just claw marks burnt into an area and then like massive fire explosions all over burning the land, and Selene doing all her crazy moon attacks. Just whatever Mishima wants to bring to the table or whatever he's got planned. But the main focus is obviously Misaki and Urza. And I wanted to kind of like chunk around some of the side bits because like that's obviously a lot of stuff going on, because the last one was focus fight. It wasn't stuff going on and we're switching really between events. We were focused on the Lucy Kiria fight, and now we are going to other activities. And again, I assume after a couple pages, probably in the next chapter, we'll get to Misaki and Urza. But Misaki, I'm really hoping we get whatever Misaki's attribute is. Like, I don't need to have the exact, she's a blank Dragon Slayer, but I would really appreciate just to have an idea of like what she's doing. What exactly is she doing? Because we don't have a direct confirmation for Haku or Kirin, but we know Haku's Dragon Slayer attribute has something to do with like yarn, like this weird string, which obviously makes sense for the whole plushie thing. And then with Kirin, when he said the atmosphere. So as far as we know, he's the atmosphere Dragon Slayer. I feel like that makes sense. It's not confirmed. That's just kind of the name we got for him right now until he gets something else. So I'm very much intrigued to see how this is going to, because I know the next chapter is going to be a setup chapter for the most part. I feel like it's going to be like half setup chapter, maybe a little bit more than half, and then like some good fights, maybe opening parts between Urza and Misaki. The only other thing I really wanted to mention was the idea of Scoleon and Madball showing up to help Misaki. I don't keep almost saying Kira. Help Misaki, because right now everybody in the labyrinth has a direct adversary. Natsu has Suzaku, Laxus has Kirin, Wendy has Haku, Lucy has Kiria, and obviously she won hers. Everybody has something kind of opposing. Gray hasn't had anything to kind of emphasize it since we got in it, because I don't think he's really had much of a chance to really kind of go over it with Scoleon as getting revenge, because we know Scoleon, even though Gray got saved by Brandish, Gray still got checkmated. He got caught in a hacks that wasn't a tricky hacks. It was this will one-shot you hacks. And Gray wasn't, I don't think Gray just really was thinking ready for a absurd broken ability 2 moves in. But regardless, like he would have been gone without Brandish. But he should want to get revenge. He should want to beat him. And I'm hoping we get something for Gray in this. Like, Gray doesn't have to have anything crazy. I think Gray should get just literally an upgrade to his devil form. I think Gray just getting that is the best thing Gray can have, and perfectly fine. Because that's all he's really missing. Whereas like Gajeel, I think Gajeel deserves something crazy. Gajeel deserves something crazy coming up. With what's going on right now with 100 Years Quest, maybe Laxus and Gajeel could be included because of the current events, and Eleftheria will be evolved again at some point, so maybe they could be included, which would be cool because I have a Gajeel video that I want to put out. Because the only other thing that they really can have is Dragon Force. If Gajeel gets like a good fight here, maybe not like some crazy like this is one of Gajeel's best fights ever, if not the best fight ever, kind of moments in this arc. I don't need him to have one of those. I'm hoping he just has one of those in 100 Years Quest. Within the story, I'm hoping Gajeel just has one of those fights where it's just like, wow, this was worth it. Like, even though Gajeel didn't do a ton throughout the arc, or throughout the saga of 100 Years Quest, and we'd wait so long for it, it'd be like, this was a great arc. Kind of like when we got Laxus versus Urza. It had been in such a long time since we got a Laxus fight, and like a really strong Laxus fight. Because Laxus versus Wall was cool, because it was like just the mechanics behind it, but obviously Laxus had the whole issue with the devil particles weakening him and hurting his ability to breathe. Obviously, it would mess with his magic internally and whatnot. So when you look at everything related to that, it's like, okay, so Laxus getting a full like straight fight with Urza was just really cool, and it was like, you know, it's straight melee battle really. Like there wasn't any characters doing any crazy like tricky moves. It was mostly just melee combat, like going at each other, dodging maybe if you can, or trying to land hits. And that was one of the things I really liked about it. But yeah, so Gajeel, I think Gajeel out of the main cast, and pretty much anybody who's on the Fairy Tail side, Gajeel deserves the biggest W, I think, at least coming up. If he doesn't get like something really crazy, either this arc or next arc, I'll be really sad. But something for Gajeel. Regardless of which, I think Madmal versus Gajeel could be really cool, because it could just be a really brute force durability fight. Maybe something here, like have something kind of like what Natsu just had with Suzaku, where he learned from the fight with him and adapted, or how Natsu adapted to Madmal actually as well to a degree, because Gajeel could maybe do something, figure out some way to adapt to Madmal and strengthen his ability, and maybe like actually achieve like Dragon Force, like real Dragon Force, without having to have an artificial boost. Like that is one thing that Gajeel I think really deserves. Gajeel, like, I feel like Gajeel, and again I've ranted about Gajeel a couple times over the last 2 months. I got in the video soon. It's already logged for a prediction video for anybody who's still here at the end. I just think Gajeel definitely deserves such a big win coming up, and such a hype moment that like the Gajeel train can really kind of not end up like the Elfman train, where it's like Elfman got in the cool new form, but outside of that, it's like, what has he done? What has he done since what, Grand Magic Games? Like, he had some short parts in Tartaros and Alvarez, but it's like short parts that were subplots and like off-screen fights, and nothing that really gave him like a big character step forward. So it's like, I don't know if he's ever going to recover from that, if he's ever going to get out of that side character hell. Gajeel, I don't think he's going to fall into that spot. He's too important to the story. But it's like he feels like it. I don't think he is, but he feels like he is. Like, if he didn't have the story reasons, I would think he is. But anyway, other than that, comment below. Thumbs up the video, befriend, like, but subscribe button, check out my other videos. From that, appreciate you guys subscribing, and thank you all for listening. Bye.